right, awesome. Thank you for having me. I have now, because of that, 2 minutes less to my presentation. We're going to talk about transparency in your CI/CD. And my name is Baruch. I'm developer advocate with JFrog. We do amazing t-shirts. As you can see, we have those, we have others. All of them are still available in our booth downstairs. If you have any questions about what you see here, if you have generally any questions about JFrog or working with artifacts, and you want awesome t-shirt, we're waiting for you downstairs. You should follow me on Twitter right now because I'm extremely entertaining guy. It's @jbaruch on Twitter. And with that, yeah, also I'm a CNCF ambassador. Yay! Okay, let's do that. Poll time. Who is familiar with JFrog and Artifactory? Woo! Okay, guys, I hope I will show you something new. I'll do my best. This is awesome. So let's start with a really fast overview of your life as developers. And not only developers, but also you write code. And you write code in a bunch of different tools. You use Java, Maven, Gradle. Who uses Java? Any? Okay, a lot of Java. Who uses .NET? Any .NET? Yeah, some .NET, JavaScript. Python, who uses Python, Go. Okay, you write code in whatever programming language and use whatever package management you want, and you add dependencies and stuff to it. Those dependencies come from external repositories, and not surprisingly, the example that I have is JFrog Artifactory, but it can be any other dependencies, repositories as well. If those dependencies are not found in those repositories will generally go outside to external central repositories like JFrog JCenter, Maven Central, NPM Registry, Docker Hub, and what's not, and grab the repositories from there. And once they are done and you have successfully completed your build, you commit your code to version control. Once you committed your code to version control, the CI server kicks in, and it can be Jenkins, Jenkins X, CodeShip, or other unnamed CI servers that we will not talk about today. And what they are doing exactly the same. They run exactly the same build, using exactly the same tools, and generally performing the exact same operation. They also need dependencies, and those dependencies will be again fetched from JFrog Artifactory, this time successfully because they're already pre-cached and stored in Artifactory. Once this is done and the dependencies are retrieved, the build will complete successfully, ended up deploying artifacts to Artifactory. So far, anyone learned anything new? I hope not, because this is something we do for many, many years. But there is something interesting that is going on when we deploy artifacts to Artifactory after the build. And that's what happens about all the metadata that we have in this process. CI server, Jenkins in our example, has an extremely important and valuable metadata. The metadata about the creation of the artifacts, how they were built, which dependencies were used, which metadata were used, why are we here on this planet, and why we exist. Well, artifacts in this example, right? This information is extremely valuable, and we need to catch it, we need to store it, and it would be better if we store them within artifacts. And this build, let's see if that thing works or it's too far away. Okay, let's see if this, no, I think it's too far away. Okay, I have a little mouse here running. Okay, here, this build of material stuff, that's exactly the metadata that I'm talking about. And then we start promotion pipeline. We add our quality assurance, quality control tools that contribute more and more metadata. Those tests passed. This component is performant enough. This thing doesn't work in Internet Explorer, and that's by design. This kind of stuff. And then we decided we are ready to go to production, and we use our provisioning tools, stuff like Docker, Kubernetes as of today, and other legacy stuff like everything else in the world, to roll out your stuff to production. And if you have downloadable software, you need to make it available for distribution, either public or private inside your organization. So that's kind of a landscape. That's kind of the big picture. If you want to take pictures, this is the complete diagram. Now you can delete all the previous ones. This is the one that is good. And just to take another perspective on the same diagram, we're good? Can we bring the next one? Another perspective on the same diagram will be that, and that will be a promotion pipeline by definition. So you can see here how very fast the sources on your left side become artifacts. You build them, and that's all. Starting from this point, you work with binary files. You work with artifacts. You promote them through quality gates, the numbered one. You promote them from one repository to another inside your artifact repository as the pipeline progresses. The previous poll was fun. Let's ask another one. Who is familiar with Jenkins? No, I'm just kidding. Okay. You remember I mentioned how important it is to catch and get all the metadata from Jenkins. The easiest way to do it when you use Artifactory is the Artifactory Jenkins plugin. It's open source, it's free. If you already use Artifactory and Jenkins, just go ahead and install it. As you can see, a lot of people did that, and they are very, very pleased with the results, because the results are capturing this metadata. Before I'm going to show you a little demo, let's talk about the history and how you should use your Artifactory plugin. So you remember, who is old enough to remember cruise control? Anyone is old enough? Yay, I'm not alone. Good. I always do that because I feel better. Yeah, so cruise control, it was big pile of XML, if you remember, and we kind of didn't like it. And then the man who hated it the most was obviously Koske, and he said, you know what, fuck this shit, I'm going to do nice UI with buttons and drop-down boxes. And then the marvelous UI of Hudson and Jenkins came, right? That was great. We could actually click buttons instead of writing XML, right? Well, not really. It wasn't flexible enough. It wasn't versionable. Well, you could take the XML from the guts of Jenkins, but how it's different from cruise control XML? It's not automatable because you cannot really repeat the same configuration automatically, and it's basically not as fancy as we want them today. So what happened next? Jenkins pipeline. Jenkins pipeline is kind of, we're going all the way back to define our pipelines in code, but this time is a better language. Instead of using a markup language, you actually use a programming language with a proper DSL, which is obviously Groovy, and I will insist that that's the best language to write your DSLs, and it actually checks all the marks. It's flexible but still declarative, it's extendable, and the source file live with your code, the Jenkins file, and you can version them together. And speaking about extendable, this is exactly, in configuration code. Speaking about extendable, that's exactly what we did in JFrog in our Artifactory plugin. We have a bunch of extensions which provide new objects to the Groovy DSL, and you can use the same objects to capture the built-info metadata that I keep coming back about and working with it, and I will show you a short demo in a second. Why it is important? Why we have problem with metadata? So I have some binary files, so what? The problem is you have a lot of binary files. If we're going back history a little bit, just like what, 16 years, we see the explosion of binaries which started with agile continuous integration and continuous delivery, which kind of went with, okay, you need to capture, or you need to build everything you write. And then DevOps, that configuration as code, artifacts, which are virtual machine images, and then obviously microservices, which basically means the more small artifacts you have, the better. And then obviously Docker. Every change in Docker file omits a bunch of new binaries, which are Docker layers. Serverless, okay, let's take one line of code and pack it inside a binary, so we will have even more. And then, of course, IoT, which is endless amount of binary files all over your house, in your refrigerators and light bulbs and what's not. Anyway, a lot of binary files, we need to manage them. The example that I'm going to give is Docker. Who is not familiar with Docker? Get out. Okay, no one. Good. everybody is familiar with Docker. Fun. Let's do some Docker. And I'm just going to show you instead, because I only have a couple of minutes, I will disconnect my screen, obviously, because that's the fun of it. But when it is connected, I'll show you an example. I will exit this guy, and then you're supposed to see my not slides. I said I will end this. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Dramatic pause, suspense, and we got it. All right. Is it big enough? It is big enough. Docker images. I have a little bit of images. My favorite image of them all is that. So let's say I have a production system and I get a report from my support or my monitoring. We have a problem with this image. And what do I know about this image? Which version is it? Latest. Latest for when? Generally latest. Well, this is a problem. The good news are that I can do something like Docker inspect and then use the image ID of this image. That was the image. And now I will have a bunch of very useful information, right? This is great. Now I know everything. But sarcasm aside, if I scroll high enough, I will find here a really useful thing. And that's a fingerprint of this image. Now, this is a real version. Does it say anything useful to you? No. Maybe I just slapped on my keyboard when this string was generated. I don't know. But if this image was built with the build integration that I mentioned, we can actually go to Artifactory, enlarge it a little bit. We can also log in. That will be very useful. And if our conference Wi-Fi will survive and we will successfully log in, I will show you cool stuff. Let's see. Yes, it works perfectly. I have a search here. And one of the searches I do have in Artifactory is a checksum search. So I can search for it, and boom, OK, I already know more about this Docker image. I know that the latest is actually 26. And if I drill down into this 26, I can actually see more information about it. I know that this is the guy, and I can go to my Docker info, and I can see here, all the Docker images, and also I know how it was built. Remember, we cached all the build info from Jenkins. Here, where it actually comes to where it comes to use. Where is my build? Where is my? Oh, sorry, I need to be here. Here, where is my build? It's right here. So I can see here that it was built in Jenkins. I can go to this build and see whatever I want to see in my Jenkins in the results. I can see the revision. I know exactly what's going on. But the most important thing is I can drill down and I can see applicative dependencies, which are, of course, the Java code that was inside this Docker image. And what I see here now is, OK, that's the war file. It runs inside this image. This is where the problem is. I can observe that. And more importantly, I don't know what's going on. I ran out of battery? Not really. And most importantly is that I can deep dive into the Java build now. And again, go to Jenkins, examine the Java build, see the sources of the Java build, and do this recursively all the way through all my metadata that I collected through this cycle that I showed you, right? So here you see again, you see all the files, you see all the dependencies, and actually I'm out of time, but there is more, and you will be able to see it where? In the JFrog booth, while I will prepare an awesome t-shirt for you. So with that, I don't have any time for questions, but you know where to find me? In JFrog booth where the t-shirts are. So I'll see you there. Thank you very much.